The Drug Alternative Program presents Drugs Close to Home. Your weekly insight into the ongoing stories of struggle, victory, and the spiritual renewal of rehabilitation. Each week, Cliff and Freddie Harris, co-founders of the Drug Alternative Program, would like to introduce you to the many people who have touched their lives through their spirit-filled ministry. But most of all, they would like to share with you the blessings they continue to receive from Jesus Christ. And now, your hosts of Drugs Close to Home, Cliff and Freddie Harris.
Welcome to Drugs Close to Home, a program about the destruction that drugs causes our families.
And the power of Jesus Christ that heals them. I believe that every life is worth saving.
Freddie, that is so true, because every changed life is a miracle from God.
Amen. You know, honey, there's two things I want to thank you for.
Oh, audience, watch this now. Here we go.
Number one, you know, we get so busy in Drug Alternative Program, but we have decided to have a date night.
Oh, that's good.
And when is our date
you know,
night?
I'd love to spend time with you.
When is date night?
Let me see, Tuesday.
Right. Every Tuesday, you guys, we have date night. And there's another thing that I want to thank you for. He always opens the door for me.
And guess what, you guys? If she does not stand there and wait for me to open the door, I don't like that. I get upset. And I love it when she just stands right there and waiting for me to open the door. I love it.
And you know, it says Christianity makes a man a gentleman, and you are a gentleman.
Oh, thank you. And you know what, everybody? She treats me just like I'm the king, the king. But in order for that, I want to speak to you men out there. But if you want to be the king, you got to treat her like she's the queen.
And I am the queen.
Yes, that you are. I love you, Freddie. You're so
you too.
sweet. Oh, I love you.
Okay.
Give me one. It makes me want to
Shout. Our guest today is Ira Lake. I called him Pastor Ira Lake because that's what he used to be, a pastor. And Ira, we want to welcome you to our program today. We're so glad to have you here. Now, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
Christian home, product of Christian education, and went through all of our schools, Adventist schools, and even up to college, Oakwood University, now Oakwood University, and then Andrews University. So I'm a product of Christian education.
And you became a pastor, and what happened?
I felt God's calling on my life at 16. And when I graduated from high school in 1977, I went down to Oakwood College and I pursued the ministry. But a funny thing happened along the way. I knew God had called me, but man has to choose you.
Oh,
So after I left, after I finished my studies at Oakwood, I didn't get a call for 4 years. So I had to.
Was that a little discouraging?
Oh, I was really discouraging. It was heartbreaking because I studied, I prepared myself, and then nothing happened. But my father had gone to Oakwood, and so I was the second generation.
Oh, okay.
And he said, I want you to take a double major. So I was a theology major and also a sociology major as well. So after school, and I didn't get that immediate call, I became a social worker in Arizona.
Okay.
And that's how I actually began my ministry, because I realized that even though God had called me, it didn't necessarily mean that I had to be in a church. Ministry could be on the street. It could be in someone's home. And I took that attitude and I tried to be the best social worker. I started off as a substance abuse counselor in a halfway house. And then they moved me to work with senior citizens. And then I worked with troubled youth who were too young to go to prison, but their crimes were such magnitude that they had to be locked up. And after 4 years of that, I got a call to come to pastor a church. And that's when the fun began.
Okay.
The fun. Now explain, what do you mean fun?
You go into ministry thinking you know everything, have all the answers, and you quickly are reminded how little you know, and everybody else has all the answers.
And then you decide to change your career from being a minister to what are you doing now?
Well, I'd always wanted to teach. My father was a teacher. Teaching is like a first love for me. I used to grade his papers, the students' papers, because of the classes he was teaching. And I love to take something broad and break it down and make it so simple that everybody can understand it. And so teaching had always been something I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to work with couples and individuals in crisis. And so after 18 years of pastoring, I just felt like it was time for me to do something else. Mm-hmm. And I left pastoring and went back to school. I came to Loma Linda University, and I began the second phase of my training, mm-hmm. which was in chaplaincy and clinical mediation, which is another way of saying a family court mediator. Mm-hmm. But I also entered into a doctoral program so that I could work and learn how to work with families in the counseling setting. And so I enrolled at Walden University while at Loma Linda's. I was going to school full-time at both schools.
That's a lot of school.
So, in other words, your passion right now has been or is now counseling.
Yes.
So
that's what you enjoy doing.
Right. And you have a nonprofit organization called Family Counseling. What is it? The name?
MTASIC, Family Counseling Services.
Right, that's what you do. And you said that one of your passions is childhood trauma. Do you have any background in that? Why are you so interested in childhood trauma?
Well, I didn't realize then, but I do now because of training and counseling that I had to undergo. But I grew up in a home that was trauma-filled. And let me just say...
Are you saying this is your own home in your own childhood?
My own home,
okay.
My own childhood.
All right.
And the number one public health issue in the United States today is childhood trauma.
Really?
Number one public health issue. 80% of childhood trauma is usually perpetrated by parents. And the children, as a result of that, grow up with all kinds of psychiatric, behavioral problems that plagues them in all walks of life, all their decisions, their relationships. And I found out about myself. I grew up in a home that was filled with physical abuse, domestic violence. And let me just say, childhood trauma can also mean, it could mean community violence. It could mean physical abuse, as I said before. Those are just examples of trauma. And if left unaddressed, childhood trauma can plague everything that we come upon, everything that we do. All our relationships, all of our decisions, and even our choices.
No.
In drug alternative program, everything stems from childhood.
Yes.
You know, these guys have problems as adults, but there's so many issues, and it starts right from their childhood, so we can really relate to that.
Yes.
Now, when you say childhood trauma, elaborate on that a little bit more. You know, you're covering a lot of fields there, a lot of incidents of things that go on. What are you, bring some substance to that. What are you talking about?
I think it's best if I illustrate with myself.
Okay, we'll do that.
Again, I grew up in a home that was filled with domestic violence, mother and father fighting, physically fighting each other, and you see this. What do you do when you're 7, 8 years old, when you see your father and mother wrestling with each other and physically hitting each other? What do you do when you see your mother and father using words outside of their names at each other? What do you do when you see, when that abuse is afflicted on you? You know, we didn't say that in the 50s and 60s and 70s. We just call that discipline. And so you grow up in a home where you are afraid to be yourself because you don't ever know when something's going to happen to you. I lived in fear. I lived in fear. I never trusted anybody. And I didn't realize it, but I was inadvertently sabotaging every relationship because I didn't trust anybody.
So went into your adulthood.
Went into my adulthood. It went into my marriage. And I just didn't understand why things were not working out. My heart was in the right place.
Right.
But I never let anybody get close to me.
So did you go into counseling to find out why you were that way?
That was the first step of when the light bulb came on. I went to a counselor, and I'm not ashamed of it. I spent 6 years with counseling. And they took me all the way back to my childhood, and we began to look at the trauma that I faced and all of the depression and distrust that was just inbred in me because I was just afraid of letting people in.
Right.
I can't trust you with my emotions, and so I'm going to protect myself. But it was through counseling that I began to see and understand how that trauma, childhood trauma had affected my life. And I determined then that I wanted to work with others because, as I stated before, the #1 public health concern in the United States is childhood trauma.
And you know, in the Bible, the Lord says, God says, it will go on from generation to generation.
Yes.
So your parents, they probably saw the same kind of trauma in their relationships, in their homes. But it can stop somewhere down the line.
So you want to help
understand?
stop the cycle.
Yes. So there are a lot of parents, they don't realize the impact, how they act toward each other, even single parents, how their lives are having an impact upon their children. And we right here in Drug Alternative Program, like Freddie says, that's the thing we deal with the most in here, is guys coming back. I have a guy here right now who, you just mentioned his father. I mean, he's supposed to be tough, and I'm this, and you know, strong. But once you say that father, you can see the emotions come up in him right quick, pain. And so, and then what's the problem is the father's passed away, and he's not here anymore. And the father wasn't a father within the home, so it had an impact upon him now. So right now he's just angry. Good man, but he's angry.
Okay, so you started a nonprofit organization. What is the name of it?
Again, the nonprofit organization is called Empathic Family Counseling Services, Inc. We formed it in April of 2014. The goal was to equip, empower, and teach couples, families, and individuals, give them tools so that they could apply them in their lives and stop the cycle. What I realized in my own life is when I had to do what we call in psychology or sociology, we call it a genogram. We had to go back certain generations and look at our family history. And what I found in my own history, it literally scared me. I am the third generation. My grandfathers on both sides were divorced. My mother and father divorced, and now I'm divorced. And I said, as you said, I have to stop this cycle because now I have 3 daughters. What am I going to leave to them? What legacy am I leaving to them? The best thing I could do for them is to find out some things about myself and then teach them. And then if I could help other people, we could stop this cycle.
Amen.
You know, that's a good point that you're bringing up, but we want to take a break and we'll be right back. Just don't change that channel. We'll be right back.
God plays a great role for me because when we get up early in the morning, when we do worship and we open up our day with God, the rest of the day goes good, you know. But when we don't have God and when we neglect and push God away, then we don't have a great day. But most definitely we need God, and most definitely I need Him every day. So without God being in DAP, I don't even know what it'd be a DAP because God is the most important component of DAP.
I live in a home and love is pouring out right where I'm at. And it makes me feel more blessed every day that the care is there for me, which it wasn't like that before.
When I first came to DAP, I was surprised about the place that we were going to stay in. It was, I did not expect the place that it was like a house setting. I did not expect the furniture, the TV, the dining room. I thought it would be more like a clinical setting, like a bed, you know, a place to, like a convalescent place or something like that. I did not expect the house, like a neighborhood setting.
What I look forward to the most is most definitely always going to be seeing lives change because that's the reason I'm here, you know, and that's the reason I want to stay here and do what I do because I get enjoyment out of it when I see people's lives are changed, you know, because that's what it's all about. As as Miss Harris always say, you know, God got us together to do service, to do His work. We are His hands, we are His eyes, we are His mouth. So, and I get enjoyment out of that, is to give back, to see someone else's life change just like mine was.
Well, all the different things that I would like to share that I see the donors doing, and I've been involved with DAP for 15 years, and I've seen a lot that the donors have contributed to many lives, allowing men to get their relationships back with their families. By them donating to DAP, they allow us to grow spiritually, physically, mentally, with the counselors who are able to come because they can afford to have good counselors because of the donations. The equipment that we have that we're able to get out and work and to help pay for the stay here in DAP.
My name is Pierre.
My name is Duncan Yangao.
My name is Marshall Davis.
My name is Savas Leon.
My name is Leonard Walsh.
My name is Frank Sellis.
My name is Brian Brockway.
I'm from Seattle, Washington.
I was born in the Philippines.
I was born in Watsonville, California.
I'm from Florida.
I'm from Hesperia, California.
I'm from South Bend, Indiana.
I am a client at Drug Alternative Program.
I'm Tracy Wise, and I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi, and I'm a graduate of the Drug Alternative Program.
Today we're talking to Ira Lake. Ira, you have talked to us about childhood trauma. Why is it so difficult for us to make changes? You know, we have these issues during childhood, but we want to change, but it's so difficult.
Well, I'm going to try to explain it as simply as I know. On this side of the brain are two areas. One is called the amygdala, and the other one is called the hippocampus. They basically work together. The hippocampus files all of the memory, it files all your memory, particularly long term. The amygdala is the seat of your emotions. It regulates all your negative emotions like sadness, disgust, anger, anything to do with sadness. So let's just say something happens. One of your clients at the Drug Alternative Program is out there doing some work and he has a temptation. What the brain does is, from the hippocampus, it has all these memories. The amygdala is like you ever seen people play cards and you go like this and the cards just go.
Right.
That's what the amygdala does. It goes through all of the experiences that you've had that's stored in the hippocampus, and it tries to find which matches best with the situation you're now facing. And as soon as it finds a match, good or bad, it chooses it.
Interesting.
And then you do it.
Wow.
You don't have any control over it?
You can control it, but initially, until you understand what's happening, it's almost like it's on autopilot.
So what do you say if we just stop and think a minute? Can that help?
All right, let me give you another equation, and that would help. The body is made as a wonderful machine. The nervous system is designed for either fight or flight, so that you see a deer in the headlight and it immediately freezes. That's the nervous system kicking in, and then you'll see that deer later on, it'll jump away, and as he's running away, it's releasing all that pent-up emotion of flight or flight. What happens with childhood trauma is, after a while, a child who is repeatedly introduced to childhood trauma, the body turns on the fight or flight and it never goes off. So you could go for years in fight or flight mode when normally it's supposed to shut down. Exercise is a good way to shut it back down and to re-regulate it. Sleep is another way. Meditation is another way. But when a child is being abused so often, that's all they do. And so they have to protect themselves, and the body never shuts it down. That's why you do things on instinct. And what we found out about the amygdala is it basically overreacts. It's not there to think and give you the right choice. It's there to take all those memories that you've done. That's why we do things on instinct without even thinking. Next thing you know, you're smoking or you're drinking or you're shooting up. It's just instinct because it's all filed right there. Now, what I like about your program is it introduces structure to one's life. It introduces a regiment to one's life. And that's an important key in helping to regulate things, because structure is, all of us need structure.
Yes.
Right.
All of us need to be regulated. But if we are left to our own devices, our mind just kind of goes.
You know, there's one thing I've noticed. Sometime when some of these guys come in and they have to do this, I don't want to get up at no 5 and 4:30 in the morning. I don't want to do that. I'm not used to that. I don't want to go to work every day at a certain time, or this is the structure. So after a while, maybe sometime 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they want a flight. I want to run. Because the mind is not structured to take this structure that they need to maintain to make that change. So if they give up early, what are they doing? Running away from it?
That's exactly it. And that's why we know that if you can introduce some structure and regiment to a person, then after a while, the brain and the body picks up a new system, a new patterns. And again, you want to give the amygdala something else to think about. All you've got stored in there are negative stuff.
So you want positive.
Yeah, but you want to add some more positive things so that when it runs through, what should we do? What did you do in a situation like this before? Before you said, well, I'm going to go ahead and shoot up. Or I'm going to go ahead and drink up. That's how I handled my distress, my depression, my anger. But we want to give them new ways to do it. You're teaching them new ways. Hey, let's pray now. Maybe, let's go to church. Let's learn some biblical principles that we can apply to help us with those situations that will come up in our lives.
Let me tell you something we did. I noticed last night we took them, all the guys. They're not used to this. We went to a concert.
Symphony.
Classical music.
Amen.
And here is, and we were all sitting behind them. We had them all in a row. They're all sitting along there. And we could tell which ones were really into it, and the other ones, when they're supposed to clap and stuff, they didn't. Because, I ain't used to this. But we're introducing them
Like
to
you said, something
some new
positive.
positive in their lives.
Yeah.
Because I asked them, would you ever do this? Did you go out to, oh no, Mr. Harris, I ain't coming to nothing like this. But they love it.
So that's replacing the negative with the positive, like you said.
Yes. I do know that parents provide a great insulation against trauma. They do, and they can. But when you have a child who grows up in a home that is filled with trauma, there is no insulation. There is nothing. So they are left basically on their own, and they have to learn to survive, and we are great at masking it. You would never know my situation, my background.
No.
I would never know yours, because we are great maskers.
Hiding it.
Yes, that's what we do.
I don't want to really let you know who I really am.
Yes. The drugs, the alcohol, the whatever. These are the ways that we mask ourselves, our hurt, our pain, our depression, all that stuff that's been hidden from everybody's view but our own. We don't even sleep at night because we're thinking about, and then so all our relationships are predetermined to fail because a big key in your program is trust.
Right.
Yes.
That's like number one. And so at some point, we have to learn how to learn new things, and I like what you're doing.
Yes.
And we have to put new habits in place, and I'm a big proponent of exercise.
And see, they get that exercise. You know what I used to do? You have some guys who come in here, been in prison, and in prison, what do? A lot of lifting weights and exercising and pumping the weight and doing whatever they do. Okay? Now you go out and you work all day in the hot sun, huffing and puffing and work hard, and you come in the evening and you want to still do all of this weightlifting. You haven't worked hard enough that day. But see, I think that mentality of the prison has kept them to continue to do that. Is that part of it too?
That's part of it, but we also know that with stress and all those things that, like trauma, the body, when the nervous system is jacked up, it secretes a hormone. It's called cortisol. Too much of it will really literally kill you. So exercise is a way of the body, you expending all that extra energy, and you're so physically tired, you're spent. So what else can you do but go to sleep and recharge?
Right.
So I'm a firm believer in, when I was working in a halfway house, working with substance abuse clients, that was a big part of their daily regimen. You had to exercise, and it was a minimum of an hour a day.
I got a good one. A lot of programs, they will have classes all day. They'll sit there and go through these classes all day, and they'll be talking about what triggers you, and we know what triggers us.
Yes.
We don't need to be in no class. We know what's happening in our lives. So we need to get some structure. Instead of sitting there going through all this stuff on these classes all day, they need to go out and work. This is how you live your life. This is what you do every day. And so I can see that.
So you just got remarried recently. Now tell us what your plans are with your new bride.
Wait a minute, Freddie. Wait a minute. I don't want to get into that right now.
No,
The reason why, I want to tell you the reason why. Because I want his wife to come, and we're going to do a program on you and your wife and how you guys met. Because let me tell you this, audience. Their life is just like Freddie and I. And I want to talk about that. And that's going to be, yes, I love it. You should have seen us the other night. We were talking, his wife, and you go, know what? They only been married 5 weeks. So you know there's a story behind that. So I want to save that for the next program.
But Ira, you have a lot of expertise, and we are excited because you're going to be a part of Drug Alternative Program. He's going to do one-on-one counseling. He's going to do some group sessions. So our meeting was not coincidental. It was providential because we need people like you.
Isn't God good?
He's good.
Isn't it good?
Hey,
it makes you want to do what, Freddie? Shout! Yes, sir. Amen.
So we're excited about that. So we're going to bring you and your wife back, but this nonprofit organization you have to teach people family counseling, childhood trauma is so needed, and it's going to be all inclusive here at DAP, Drug Alternative Program.
Thank you.
I got to go to the telephone. Please give us a call. They can find us
on the internet.
On the internet. Search us down and give us a call. You still see those avocados back there? They will be there. Give us a call if you would like some avocados from California, especially from the tree. We will send you a box. Give us a call. We love you.
And Jesus loves you even more.
And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. You are welcome.